Hello. Hi. Welcome to day one of Sort Out Your Love Shit. We have in love that are not helpful and not really serving us and that keeping us stuck and small and really consumed by what's going on within us. If we haven't met before, I'm Cheryl Muir. I'm a relationship expert. My area of specialty is helping you overcome dating drama so that you're happy and free and your energy is ready and your time is really freed up to do other things in the world and do what you're here to do. That's me. That's what I do. So this is day one. There's day two tomorrow. So today's live at 3 p.m. and tomorrow, January 4th, is live at 4 p.m. So an hour later from now. I'm in the UK, so I'm on UK time. My intention with all of this is to give you as much information as possible to help you to understand what's kept you stuck in love and relationships, why it is you've had patterns in dating that have been really difficult. And, throughout all of this, if you have any questions, just drop them in the comments. I'm happy to do a Q&A as well. I'm going to be covering a couple different topics. I'll let you know what they are in a minute. And we'll have another set of topics for tomorrow's video as well. And as information comes through, as it always does, I will share that and go off on, no doubt, really wild tangents. And hopefully that's a tangent that is exactly what someone somewhere needs to hear at the time that they see it. So I would love to know, what's your intention for this series for today and tomorrow? If you're going to spend time really diving into this content, I'd love for you to have an intention. What is it you want to be clear on? What is it you want to learn, to grow through? What is it you're struggling with, right? What's your intention for these 2 days? I would love to know. So you can drop that down in the comments, or you can just write it in your journal and just be clear for yourself, like, what is it you want to heal from, overcome? So now feels like a good time to let you know what we're going to be covering today. And we are going to be covering 3 things. Well, I say 3 things. As I said, I might go on random tangents. So day one is clearing out the mess. The mess is all this stuff inside that blocks us from being this beautiful, gorgeous, radiant goddess. By the way, before I get into this, what I mean by gorgeous goddess, it's not necessarily how we look, although it can be. It's how we feel about ourselves. When you see someone that's just so radiant and so glowing, there's so many people that come to mind when I think that. I'm thinking of people like J-Lo or Gal Gadot that plays Wonder Woman. Like, they're just, of course, they look great and they're beautiful, but they're radiant. And there's other people that perhaps look good and they're technically like good looking, but they're not radiant, right? They don't have that glow and that kind of goddessy, like feminine, juicy energy, which feels so good for us as women and for those of us who identify as women. So that's what I mean by gorgeous goddess. It's not that we all have to turn into like Victoria's Secret models. That wouldn't work for me. I'm 5'2", so not gonna have a career in modeling. But it's about how we feel about ourselves. This gorgeousness is our energy, and it's what it really is when we're radiant. It's our soul, the light of our soul shining through our physical vessel, our skin, our cells, everything. So that's what we mean by gorgeous goddess. Hot mess is the karmic stuff, the really gooey, like thick, karmic stuff that we have to work through, the things that don't feel good, the things that keep us responding to someone who's treating us in a way that feels quite disrespectful. So it's going from there to here. It's going from being the person who feels really stuck in relationships and always entertaining the time of people that are not really honoring her, going from that to being someone who really knows her worth and who is graceful and gracefully walks away from anyone who's not really honoring her. Is this all making sense? Let me know. I know there's a few of you on live, so talk to me. Let me know. Is this all making sense? Like, what is it you want to learn? What is it I can support you with? So the 3 topics that we're definitely going to cover today, and there may be more, there probably will be more. It's the reason why love feels hard. So why is it that we find ourselves stuck in these patterns where love just feels like a mystery, and it feels like we're always dating the same type of person over and over again? Why is it? Why does it feel hard? I'm also going to explain the soul deep meaning behind our love troubles. So there is a soul reason. My side note, my progressed moon just went into Aquarius, like literally this month. So a few days ago, I'm like 1 week into a 2.5 year cycle where my progressed moon is in Aquarius, and obviously this whole Saturn Jupiter thing went into Aquarius. Anyway, point is, you can certainly expect me to be talking a lot more about spiritual stuff. So if that's something that you love, that'll be great. If not, then this might not be for you. But either way, just a heads up. I'm not sure what's going to come through. Might be talking about aliens in a second. Who knows? So the soul deep meaning behind our love troubles. There is a reason why our soul would choose to really struggle in this area. So I'm going to explain what that is. And I don't want to say any more because I'll spoil it. I'm almost like going into the topic. And then also the practical, emotional and spiritual steps that we need to heal this. So sometimes when we have a lot of work to do in love and relationships, it's like we need a different toolkit. Quite often I'm interviewed by mainstream media, which I'm always happy to be, love to be featured, grateful for it, grateful. And, you know, often it's things like, oh, what tips do you have for dating apps? What tips do you have for Zoom dates? And it's like, I can give you the tips, I can give you the strategy, that's absolutely fine. Knowing how to communicate is a skill that we should all have and hone, of course. But if you have unresolved stuff from your past, it's not going to matter if you say the right thing or look the right way or act in a certain way, because you've got unresolved stuff from the past that's going to be getting in the way. And really, it's not about doing the right things. It's about embodying the person that you want to be, being the highest and best version of you. And it's not about being someone else either. It's not about turning into someone who's not you. It's about embracing all the sides of you that maybe you're ashamed of, embarrassed about, feel like they're too much or not enough or whatever it is, and embracing those quirks about you and amplifying them and coming at it from a really like high vibrational standpoint. So I don't mean things like, oh yeah, I tend to like not follow through on things and never get things done and like make goals and not reach them. Oh, I love that about myself. We're not talking about that. We're not going to like bypass this and accept things about ourselves that are not helpful. We're going to look at those things and go, okay, I see that I'm doing this. I acknowledge that I'm doing this. I don't think that really honors me or my body or my time or my energy or my path. And so I'm going to choose to not watch TV and go to bed earlier, or I'm going to choose to not hang around with those people who make me feel bad about myself and who kind of mock me and mock my dreams. I'm going to find a group of people that really support me, you know? So when I say, talk about this self-love and self-acceptance and accepting those parts of ourselves that we might feel ashamed or embarrassed about, I'm talking about like our sexuality, our nerdiness, our love of like data and facts and space, or like those kinds of things, those qualities that are inherently us, but we maybe feel like are not socially acceptable. Or we have some resistance to letting that part of us shine. And when we do let that part of us shine, we feel really joyful and radiant and gorgeous. So that's what I mean. I'm not talking about the things where we're like, oh yeah, I run an hour late and like lose friends because of it. We're not going to like lovingly accept that. We're like, okay, let's look at that and maybe do something that honors, you know, myself and other people more. So that's what we're talking about. What else do I want to tell you before we get in? Oh, there's a course sale on at the moment. So if you like my work, this would be a really great time to get in. If that's something that feels like it would really support your journey, I'd love to have you and love to support you. Not all of the courses are on sale. So I've just put the top 2, the most popular, and the ones that also happen to be the courses that I feel are best for those of you that are starting out on the journey, that are new to the journey, that are beginners. And not necessarily beginners to the entire journey, but beginners to really honing in on love being a challenge. So that's the dating drama empowerment method and also infinite love. The description's down below in the video description, letting you know what those courses help you with. Oh, one thing I do need to let you know that is included with the courses is we're now having monthly calls on Zoom. So anyone that's in my courses can attend the calls. They're group calls, they're not one-to-one. But we had a really intimate call on, what date did we do the call? I think it was last week. You know, when it's like been Christmas and you don't really know what day it is, that's what's happening to me. And they also locked us down on like New Year's Eve. So we kind of went from Christmas to lockdown in the UK, so I fully don't know what day it is. It's Sunday the 3rd of January. Okay, good to know. So we had our monthly group call on, okay, so it was Monday of this week. Really? but last year. Okay, Monday, December 28th. What I'm trying to say is we had our first monthly group Zoom call with people that were in my courses, and it was really beautiful, really like tender and intimate. And the ladies that were on there got so much from it, and there's a really, really great energy on those calls. So we're going to have two this month. We're going to have 2 monthly Zoom calls in January, and the rest of them are once per month. And I'm going to mix up the time so that whether you're in Canada and America, or whether you're out near Australia and New Zealand, there's going to be a time for you where you can attend. Obviously I'm limited, it can't be in the middle of the night for me, but I'm going to do different times, so you've got a fair chance to attend. So the details of the sale are down below. It's 21% off with the code 2021. 21% 2021. So yeah, and that ends on January 7th, so it's open for the first week in January. I think it's a good time to really dive into these topics, hey? And by the way, as we're talking, like, drop your comments down below. Yeah, let me know what I can support you with, because I love answering questions and I love supporting you with whatever it is you're stuck on, so let me know. Okay. So the reason why love feels hard. So I remember when I was in my 20s, I remember being in this pattern of feeling like there was something wrong with me, feeling like I was just doomed and just really broken, and that I was just, love being hard was just the way it was. I just was so used to being completely taken out by, or like really incapacitated by, the pain of someone I liked not liking me back, or being ghosted, or going on the date with someone I thought I was going to move forward with, and then that didn't happen, and it was devastating to me, and I couldn't let go of it. Like, I just had some real attachment issues. I didn't know that's what it was. I didn't know it was attachment issues, but I knew it was painful. I was very consciously aware that it was painful. And it got to the point, I was 20, what's my exact age when this happens? I might have been around 26, 27. I'm 35 now. I was around the age of 26, 27. I was living in Vancouver, and I was in my apartment, and I remember like crying over whatever guy it was at the time, and saying to myself, I sat bolt upright and I said, I'm just really tired of experiencing the same misery over and over again. And it was just very, very clear that I was in a pattern and I was going to change it. And it took a lot of years and a lot of therapy and a lot of creating my own methods, which is now the Dating Drama Empowerment method. Really creating my own ways of understanding why I was stuck. Because I started reading all the books, you know, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and like all the dating books, like Red Flag books, and He's Not That Into You, and all this, the great books. But for me, I was looking at it going, oh, I need to do this. I need to not text back as quick, and I need to do it this way. And I just became very like Mr. Roboto, you know, like very robotic about it. And I didn't understand why it wasn't working, why things were still difficult. So through counseling and through coaching, I got to the bottom of why it was really hard for me. So why is that? Why is it that love feels hard? Why was it hard for me? And why is it something that's difficult for you? So we learn these patterns when we're young. And when we are small children, before we're conditioned, Robert Holden, who is a beautiful teacher on love, success, the spirit and the soul, he's really wonderful. He calls this the unconditioned self. So when we're born, we have this unconditioned self. I mean, we still have our soul, and we have memories, of course, that come up usually when we're about 5 or 6. There's a lot of children that have like past life memories. It's really fascinating. So before we get reconnected back to our soul, we're this unconditioned human being, right? With a psyche that hasn't been tampered with. We haven't been told what to believe. It's very much a blank slate. And so we enter into these families where we're trying to learn from the people around us. And you might have heard me use this analogy before, but it's almost like when you have a puppy or a kitten and they're looking to like the older dog or the older cat in the house to like learn how to like groom. You know, they do that really cute thing where they like clean their face and their ears. It's like really sweet. Or maybe they're like running after a ball or whatever it is. And the younger animal is like looking up to their elder to be like, oh, how do I be a dog? How do I be a cat? What is it we do? Or we catch mice, we run after balls, we wag our tails, etc. So we like to think we're a lot more sophisticated than the animals. We're not. I would argue some animals are a lot smarter than most of humanity, because most animals don't destroy their home like we do. but that's a tangent I'm not going to go on today. I could talk a lot about that. I can feel the Aquarian energy bubbling up. But the point is, we are very similar to animals in that we're looking to our parents, we're looking to our home environment, to our family, to understand how to be human, to understand how to relate to one another. And so that's great. That's how we're built. But if we're in an environment where there's people drinking too much, or people shouting at each other, or people relating in a very dysfunctional way, we're picking up on this and we're learning it. And at the same time, we're also learning things about ourselves, or we're experiencing things and we're making it mean something about ourselves. Because before the age of 6, we don't really have a filter. It's called theta brain state, so very similar to when you're in meditation. But basically, we don't have a filter before the age of 6. And so it's the same reason why we believe in Father Christmas. We're like, yeah, sounds legit. Some guy delivering parcels to everyone in one night. Not even like Amazon or UPS can do that. Or FedEx. I watched Castaway last night, the movie with Tom Hanks, and it's got FedEx in it, so I've got FedEx on the brain. Great movie, by the way. Yeah, I wish I'd stayed up and watched the whole thing. I watched half of it and then went to bed because I was really tired. But the point is, like, we hear things like that, like Father Christmas and the Tooth Fairy, and we're like, oh yeah, like that sounds like legit. And it's really not. But the point is, we learn these things and we don't question them. So if we're crying as an infant or a baby, right, we're really, really young. We're so young that we barely even remember this consciously, though we can remember it if we go through it in regressions and stuff. We don't remember it consciously, but if we're crying and crying and crying and no one's coming to us, then what we're making that mean about ourselves is, when I'm in need, no one responds to me. My needs are not important. Other people's needs are more important than my own. And then we get older and we get, we get between the ages of like 6 and tween, and we start to learn more about our environment. And then we get to our teenage years and we learn even more. And we're learning all the time about our role in relationships. So what does that do you think, if we are in an environment where instead of being parented and being supported, we are supporting a parent? We are being their emotional caretaker. You know, that thing parents sometimes do, and it's happened to me, it's happened to a lot of my clients, very, very common, although very unhealthy, is when the parent's sharing like marriage troubles with you, or they're sharing inappropriate information about the person they're dating with you, or they're sitting down with you and sharing things that they should be sharing with their friends and their adult friends. And so in that situation, you might think, oh, is that really a big deal? Yes, it is a big deal, and I will tell you why that is. It's because in that role of parent and child, there can only be one parent and there can only be one child. And so if you're the child, and by child I don't mean you're 3 or 4 years old, I mean you might be a teenager, but you're still very much in their care, you're very much not at the age yet where you can leave and have your own life. Or maybe you are, maybe you're an adult and you're still living at home, the case is. When that happens, the parent has basically said, I'm not going to be in the parenting role right now. They've taken themselves out of that role. And because they've done that, this switch happens. So you become the parent and they become the child. And it's really fucked up because it makes us think like we've got to be the supporter. So there's a lot more I could go into there in terms of the source, but what do you imagine that does to a person? What beliefs do you think that gives to someone? Some of the beliefs can be that we always have to be there for another person, that our needs are not important, that we always have to be the helper, and we end up attracting these broken people. So that's not the place from which we would then easily slide into a really healthy relationship. And so all these different patterns come up, all these different archetypes. I cover that in the Dating Drama Empowerment Method course, and there's a video somewhere on YouTube. If you type in the 6 dating drama archetypes into YouTube, it'll bring a video up where I explain this in more detail. But we fall into these patterns where we become the lone wolf and we push people away, or we fall into this pattern of clinging and we find it really hard to be with someone without losing ourselves in them, or we become obsessed with someone that we can't have. And what's happening in all of those situations is our inner child, that small part of us that remembers being really alone or not supported or really afraid, she is then trying to resolve this stuff with her family but resolve it now by attracting people who are similar and trying to make a different outcome so that she can close the door on the past. But all that does is it just keeps us attracting these people who are the same. So a classic example would be your father wasn't really there, and so you attract all these men who are, you know, the unavailable man. Maybe they're married, maybe they live on the other side of the world, maybe they are unavailable in some way, like, you know, I just want to be friends and all this kind of stuff. It doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means you're choosing what's familiar to you. The first relationship you build with a man is with your father. The first relationship you build with a woman is with your mother. Now, sexuality comes into play here as well, depending on what gender you're dating. But regardless, these relationships and the person whose love you crave the most is going to come up in your adult relationships if you don't go back and look at that and heal it. And this doesn't apply to, what I'm about to say doesn't apply to all of you, but generally in the world, people are running around with gaping, open emotional wounds, and they're really not aware that this is even happening. So I was interviewed by a newspaper who I'm not going to say their name in case I get in trouble and get sued. We don't want to get sued. But there was a paper that wanted to interview me, and they were like, why is it men behave really like inappropriately with women, and why is it men do this and why is it men do that? And so I spoke to her and I said, well, sometimes this behavior happens because of this, that, and the other. What we also need to look at is if we have the pattern of, you know, dating the same person over and over again, there might be something within us that we need to look at and resolve. And this reporter responded, it was on Facebook Messenger. She responded with just like an angry emoji, and I like never heard from her again. So it was really interesting because in that article, it was quite clear that the newspaper and the writer already had their angle, and the angle was men are the worst and here's why women shouldn't trust them. And I'm like, that's not great for our relationships. It's really not. And I wasn't going to buy into it, and I obviously didn't get featured, but I'm not gonna feed into that because it's bollocks, right? It's absolute bollocks. So yeah, we have a lot of responsibility to work out why it is we're attracting the same person over and over again. Of course, it doesn't excuse anyone's shitty behavior, like that's their karma and their thing to look at. But if we keep dating people who treat us terribly, there's something there for us to look at. And I'm not blaming anyone when I say that, but just to take that power back and be like, you know what, I always have this friend who treats me as her therapist. I always date this guy or this girl who is somehow not really there for me, or it goes well for a little bit, then they disappear. Why is that? Why is it that I feel like people are more interested in me when I'm not there, and then when I'm there in person with them, they act like I'm not there? Why is that? Let's go back to my family, right? So in a nutshell, why is love hard? And I mean, I go through this in the dating drama empowerment method again, but there's two reasons really. One is learn and copy. So we learn things from our family home and we copy it. So we see our parents fighting. So we create all these very dramatic relationships where we're either fighting with the person just like we saw, or we're creating these like dramatic things like he's gone and now he's back, and it's like all this drama because that's our default, that's our baseline. It's like our energetic set point. We're used to being in that area where relationships feel like a battle. So we do that. Or there's the other thing that I describe, which is something I call experience, believe, and act. So you experience something like people not responding to you. It forms a belief, which might be my needs are not important. And then we act from the belief of my needs are not important. So we need to go back to, I'm kind of going into point 3 about learning the tools, but it's all good. And so what we do is we need to go back to what happened, look at that and heal that. And by heal that, you might be like, great, but what does heal that actually mean? It means look at what happened and acknowledge what happened, explain what happened, through your journal or through a coach or a counselor or whoever you resonate with. If that's me, great, but just get the help to do that and acknowledge what happened. And then look at the emotions, because often when we're young, we numb out our emotions when something painful happens because we're in survival mode. We're in survival mode and we we don't feel it's safe to express our pain that our parent didn't respond to us, because we're dependent on them for our survival. And in our very, childlike, very like naive brains, we're thinking, well, I can't really say anything to this parent, because what if then I don't get fed, or I get kicked out the house, and maybe when you're older, when you're in your teens, that becomes a very real possibility, like the whole running away from home thing. And that's always an interesting dynamic, right, when you don't want to be in the home. But the trauma of that, the trauma of being a child in an environment that either isn't safe or doesn't feel safe, and or the trauma of that is huge, because you can't leave. And so a psychologist friend of mine, a therapist friend of mine, says that is one of the highest level of traumas, because it's almost like being in a hostage situation. You can't leave, and you're dependent on these people for your survival, and it doesn't feel like a safe environment. So it's very traumatic. So we often suppress our emotions. There's a lot of other reasons why we suppress our emotions, but at a very basic level, it's because we need to survive. So we shut down what we feel and we suppress it. So the healing process is about feeling that. Like, how did it feel when your dad left? Just feel into that. Close your eyes with me. Like, how did that feel when that happened to you? Just bring that to your now. That painful thing that has come into your mind, that you've been reminded of as we've been talking. How did it feel when that happened? Feel that in your body. Can you give that feeling a name? Is it sadness? Is it anger? Is it fear? Is it something else? And whereabouts in your body can you feel that? Can you feel it somewhere in your body? Does it feel like it's in your chest or on your shoulders? Does it feel like a heaviness there on your shoulder, your stomach, and it feels like a weight or a tightness? Try and locate that in your body. And now, knowing that emotion, whether it's sadness or fear or anger or all of the above or something else, when you feel that way, when you experience that emotion, what is it that you need? What is it that brings you comfort? What is it that helps you feel better? And what helps you to move through that emotion? There may be something that comes to you now. You may want to write those questions down. Go back and replay that part and write those questions down and maybe journal on them. What is it that helps you feel better when you feel sad? When you feel angry or afraid or frustrated or confused or betrayed or heartbroken? So then, when a trigger comes up that reminds you of that event from the past, whether it's a relationship or something someone says or a memory, you get some kind of reminder of that, just come back to this. How do I feel? Where is it in my body? And what is it that I need? What will comfort me and help me to feel better? And it might also be helpful to be aware of what makes you feel worse when you feel that way. So if you know that you call your friend and they're very invalidating, perhaps don't call that friend when you're in that emotion. Or if you notice that you have a pattern of hanging out with Netflix or social media, perhaps create a bit of a pause before you grab the phone, grab the remote control. Pause and instead ask yourself, what do I really need? because you deserve to feel good. You deserve to feel comforted. Nurturing helps you to feel better, and numbing very often makes you feel worse. So just acknowledging those feelings now. We're going to come back in a moment. Just acknowledging those feelings and really giving that compassion to yourself, that compassion that you so readily give to others. Just really give that compassion to yourself now. And ways that we can do that, we can say to ourselves, I went through a lot. That was really, really difficult for me. That was painful. Or it could even be, I acknowledge that I'm really suffering here. And I deserve to feel better about this. Beautiful, beautiful work. You're doing so well. You're doing really well. And just generating a feeling within your heart. So at the center of your chest, just allowing a warmth to develop, an opening, almost like the gradual opening of a lotus flower. Allowing that to develop at the center of your chest. It might be a warmth. It may feel like an opening or a blossoming or a blooming. Allowing that feeling in your heart. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes. Beautiful. Welcome back. That is the healing process, right? That is what we mean by self-soothing. That is what we mean by emotional regulation, those terms that are really thrown around and you think, what does that even mean? Like, what's this like gobbledygook? That's what it is. It's being able to name the emotion. It's being able to understand where the emotion is in your body, because trauma numbs us out from feeling. It disconnects us and we think emotion is all of us. And we say things like, I am sad, instead of I feel sadness, right? And so we think we are the emotion, when actually the emotion is just in us, and we can just, when we go through that exercise, we can take it out and we can just look at it, right? We can just look at it and say, that's sadness. So what's going to help me to feel better and to move through that? That's the healing process. So I really hope that was helpful and that really nourished you. And all of that, it's also connecting to our emotions and our feelings and our heart and our body. And that's feminine energy. And I think feminine energy is one of those things that feels like a bit elusive and a bit mysterious and maybe even a bit intangible. But it's not. It's having a relationship with our body and our hearts and our emotions, and spending less time in our head and more time in our body and in our heart. And that doesn't mean that we don't think, we don't make decisions. Of course we do, but we are really connected to what's going on in our body and in our emotional world. And when we do that, we're not expecting someone else, whether it's a friend or whether it's a partner or someone we're dating or want to date, or that person that keeps coming back, like it's texting me again, haven't heard from him in 2 months. But those people, we're not expecting them to meet all of our emotional needs. Even when we're in the long-term partnership, it's not healthy to expect one person to meet 100% of our needs 100% of the time. That's our job. And then when we do that, we're able to offer a slice of that pie, if you like. Maybe that's 20% or whatever figure pops to mind. We entrust them with that. They can take care of that part of it. They can support us in that area. But sometimes in partnerships, people become really engulfed. And that engulfment happens when there's no separation between the people, and the best partnerships tend to work out really well when it's two people who are very autonomous and very strong, helping one another and partnering together like a team, kind of like a Venn diagram, like the concentric circles. The circles don't overlap and become one circle. There's overlap, and it might overlap quite a lot, but there's still the two individuals who are together as a team. They don't become one person. we see that a lot in spiritual wording, like, you know, the one and twin flames and all this. And I used to teach on that, and twin flames are real. They certainly are. But this whole idea of like the one and becoming one is a way of us sometimes justifying that behavior that's not the most healthy. You know, we can partner with a person without losing ourselves in them. And that can be a really beautiful thing. So it feels like a good time to, and Meredith, by the way, I can see your comments, and I'm going to get to them at the end, I promise. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'm happy to answer them, happy to serve you. It feels like a good time to go into the soul deep meaning behind our love troubles. So what does that mean? Why would our soul choose to struggle with this? It seems like when you're in it, it kind of seems like torture, but it isn't. And I'll let you know why. So the soul deep meaning behind it. Why would our soul choose to go through this? It's because we have some relationship karma. That's the reason why. We have some things to, oh, my calendar's been here the whole time. Sorry, I can just see it jutting out into the frame. That's not looking very good. See if I can put it up there. I need to get that sorted out. Anyway, I think it's Canada somewhere. I forget where it is. I'm half Canadian. Fun fact. So we have relationship karma. So in our previous incarnation, in our past life, the last time we were here, it might have been recently, it might have been 50 years before we were born in this life. It could have been a couple hundred years. It depends. But we experienced something that was, it might have been several lifetimes ago, but we haven't cleaned it up. So with karma, it's like a balancing of scales. If something happens, we've got to balance that out. So if someone causes a lot of harm in this lifetime, which certainly isn't our governments and leadership right now and our large corporations. There's a lot I could say about that. I'm going to resist the urge. But if anyone's causing harm to people or to the planet or to the creatures that we share the earth with, and we don't own them, we share the planet with them, and we're destroying their home, karmically, that's very bad. So if you cause harm, you then need to rectify that. If you don't do that in this life, or if your soul crosses over, so your physical body dies before you can resolve that, you have to resolve it in a lifetime. So specific to relationships, that could look like relationships were, so I'll just talk about some of my relationship karma. So in my most recent past life, relationships were so painful for me and so hard that I just made this decision in the last lifetime. I'm just not going to do it. I'm just not going to be it anymore. They're too hard, they're too painful. I get too tangled in other people's stuff, and it's just a no from me. I'm just not going to do it. And so in this lifetime, I have a lot of karma around partnership. And so though I'm not in my partnership right now, I know that's coming for me in the near future, and that's beautiful. And I can't wait to share that with you. And I think that will be really amazing to see that documented, how, you know, I did the stuff around twin flames, now I'm teaching on this, and then, you know, when I'm in that partnership, I'm sure my work will evolve into teaching people about partnership, and that's really exciting. So yeah, I have a lot of my north node's in Taurus, so for those of you that know astrology, that has a lot to do with stability and just creating peace in your life and serenity. So yeah, and my south node is Scorpio, which has a lot to do with destruction, chaos and drama. So I'm definitely doing my dharma and my karma here by teaching people how to go from the drama to the karma aspects of life. Lots of rhyming today. So basically, if you struggle in love, it's because at some point in a past life, relationships were really hard for you, and so you have some lessons to learn. And the good thing about that is duality, meaning if relationships have been really hard and really painful and like tight and difficult, it means once you learn the lessons, then you're destined, literally destined to experience those beautiful partnerships once you've gone through the fire, and the fire is the healing process, and that can feel very difficult. And people spend a lot of time over here in the wounds, and we spend a lot of time, you know, watching videos and love tarot readings on YouTube and all this stuff that's not really helpful, that's avoiding the flaming inferno in the middle, that we can't go around it, we have to go through it. I was thinking earlier about I've been doing this work for 6 years. I've been in this industry for 6 years and been coaching for that length of time, and you know, I see the same names pop up sometimes, and I can see the people who've gone on to just do incredible things, and it's kind of mind-blowing to see where people were and where they are now. It's like quite extraordinary. And then there are other people who, they seem to be in the same place, and I don't want that for you. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be in one of my courses. I mean, someone else might be right for you, and that's great. But it's so important that we do the work. It's so important that we do. So, like, what's your resistance to it? Like, where is it you find yourself stuck? A pattern I used to have, not in relationships, but more in business and in money and success and visibility, was I felt like to receive the success that I really wanted, I had to be someone else, follow someone else's formula, and hire people and pay at a level that was financially very uncomfortable for me. Now, I think stretching yourself and being uncomfortable can be good, but for me, it just got me into a whole world of financial pain. I went bankrupt in 2016. So there was a very high price to my not trusting myself, right? So my pattern was having a relationship to the work whereby I didn't trust myself to actually do it. I didn't trust myself to lead my life and my mission. I entrusted someone else with that and paid them, quite princely sums to tell me what to do. So what's your pattern with the work and with the healing journey? Do you avoid it? Do you go really hard with it for a week and then stop? Are you inconsistent with it? Or, what's your relationship to the actual work? That can be something that can really unfuck us, So that's something to keep in mind. So the soul deep meaning behind our love troubles is that we have relationship karma. And so what I find really reassuring about that, and maybe you do too, is that there's nothing wrong with you. The reason you find love hard is not because, I used to think I'm broken, there's something wrong with me, I just can't figure it out, I'm doomed in love and possibly life. Actually, I didn't think that. It was the relationships for me that I'm like, this is how it is and this is how it's always going to be, because I can't imagine it being different to how it is now. I just couldn't imagine it. I couldn't picture a different reality, and I was so used to it being hard. And people have patterns with of that type with other things, with visibility, with money, with business, all kinds of patterns. But for me, and perhaps for you as well, in relationships, I just couldn't imagine it being different. And I did think there was something wrong with me, which was not true. It was just that I had some lessons to learn. So that's all it is. It's just some lessons that you need to learn, and your soul chose to learn those lessons. Yeah. As I say that, I want to be really responsible. Just because your soul chose to learn lessons, it doesn't excuse anyone treating you badly, or it doesn't excuse their bad behavior. They will have to right that within themselves and within the world and make sure the karmic scales are balanced. So it doesn't justify anyone treating you badly, but it does add some context to why things have been hard. And yeah, I hope that gives you a bit of freedom and a bit of space from what it is. So a question you can ask yourself, and maybe you can journal on this, is to ask yourself the question, if my soul chose this, what am I meant to learn? And, or you can also journal on, if my soul chose this, then ... If my soul chose this, then... and complete that sentence. Just use that as a prompt. If your soul chose it, then what else? And I'll let you complete that sentence. That can be really, really powerful, because it helps us, instead of being really enmeshed with our pattern, we take a bit of a zoom out and we look at it, and we're able to get some perspective. Yeah, because it's all karma. It's all karmic, especially when it feels really hard. And that's when it comes down to people like twin flames and karmic people get very upset when I say things like this, but we're not necessarily meant to be in relationships with those people, but they're just an accelerant to our journey. I certainly had that experience, and still have a lot of love for that person. God bless him. I hope he's okay, but not someone I can partner with due to numerous reasons. But yeah, we really can, when we're through the other side of it, we can really bless that person and feel really grateful for the lessons that they taught us. So our final point then, we've covered why love feels hard. So going back to our childhood and looking at what happened, what it taught us about our self-beliefs that formed, and how we act then from that space of replicating what we saw in our family home, or acting from the beliefs that formed because of what happened. And we talked about some of the patterns, some of the archetypes, and Meredith was saying, I love the dating archetype video. Yeah, thank you, Meredith. It was really good, right? I really love that video too. Perhaps I'll put it in the comments below, and you can all watch that. That can be your homework, if you like, your next step. We've also covered the soul deep meaning behind our love troubles. So that is karma, something happened in a past life, and we're meant to learn some lessons around relationships so that, this is really the important thing, so that we can experience the opposite, so that it doesn't just, our journey is not just left with, oh, we had this really painful experience in love. Now we get to experience the opposite, and we get to experience how love and partnership can be a really beautiful, nourishing, healing, safe, joyful experience for us. Incidentally, the people who, marry their sweetheart at 18 and stay with them for the rest of their lives, until they're like 85 or however it is we're going to live to. I'll get onto longevity in a minute. It's super interesting. But those people who meet their sweetheart and stay with them their whole lives, often, in my opinion, I have a hypothesis that the reason that is those people did their relationship karma and cleared their relationship karma and learned their lessons in their last life. So that means in the next life we get to come on in and we're like, I've got this. I've learned these lessons. There's no need for me to incarnate into a dysfunctional family. I've got it. I've learned it. And then we'll meet our sweetheart at 18 and it will be magical. And maybe that will be one of our last lifetimes because there's not a lot left to learn in Earth School then. Or maybe we'll come back and we'll be dedicated to, instead of doing the inner work, we'll be dedicated to doing some of the outer work in the world that needs to be done with regards to the environment and the climate and so on and so forth. So the practical, emotional and spiritual steps needed to heal this. What do I want to tell you on this? Let me just tune in. So with the emotional steps, I feel like we've kind of covered that with the exercise that we went through. It's really about understanding what we're feeling, sometimes where it came from, but moreover, what's happening in our body and then how we can help ourselves feel better. And really just understanding our patterns. So if your pattern is, I feel anger and then I feel like it's not really an emotion I can be with because it feels really uncomfortable. So I go and watch TV for a couple hours, or I, grab some food to numb out with that, or I, go and, I don't know, drink copious amounts of coffee or alcohol or something, using some kind of stimulant or suppressant to alter your emotional state is usually a red flag that there's some lack of self-soothing skills there. That's where all addiction comes from, actually. It comes from trauma. Trauma and addiction are inextricably linked. I always watch those shows like there was a show years ago called Intervention. I don't know if you remember that show. I used to love watching it. There's also shows like My 600-Pound Life, which I watch a lot. Like any of these shows where someone has a relationship to food or alcohol or another substance where there's an addiction at play and it's had a real manifestation in their physical body. I watch that and I can usually pinpoint, where there's been like sexual abuse or there's been abandonment, and it's caused this person to have a self-image that then becomes a breeding ground for numbing out with food or alcohol. I'm sure it's more complex than that because I really don't work in addiction, but I'm 6 years sober, so I can certainly speak from that perspective. Yeah, a lot of it has to do with trauma and not having the skills to feel better, and especially with the TLC show 600-Pound Life, a lot of the time what you will hear them saying, and I watch this a lot over Christmas, which is why it's on my mind, a lot of the time you'll hear the patients saying, they're going to see the doctor. By the way, doctor now, definite Mercury in Aries, he's so direct. But they say things like, I'm feeling really stressed, so I'm going to need to eat something, or I'm feeling really anxious and it's causing me to eat. And so it's actually not about food at all. It's about them developing the skills to really be with their emotions and work through them. And it's the same with relationships. Instead of texting the guy back and saying, or the girl back, or whoever you date, and saying, you're the worst, Instead of doing that, like, okay, what's this bringing up in me? Okay, I'm feeling anger. Okay, let me go and deal with the anger, and then we can come back and have a conversation. And that's so important, not just for dating and love relationships, but for our friendships, for our interactions with colleagues, managers, the general public. If you work with the public, God bless you if you do. I've worked with the public in customer service jobs. It was interesting and challenging and illuminating. Or for dealing with friends. You know, if a friend says something and it kind of pisses you off, it's wise to go within first before having a conversation with them, and it comes from a very different place then. So yeah, so we've dealt with I think we've covered the emotional tools, the practical tools. I think we've covered that too, in terms of when you're in it. So let's say someone texts you. I'm just going to get a phone. This is not actually my phone. I dropped my phone in the lake on Christmas Eve. It's really not a very good thing for me to do. It's submerged in ice cold water for like a couple minutes, so it's probably no more. This is my friend's phone. She's loaned it to me. So let's say, oh, this is a really nice phone. Let's say he or she texts you and it's like really flaky, and it's like, I don't know, it's 11 p.m. and they go, hey, what are you doing? Do people still type WYD, like what you doing? Is that still a thing? I don't have those kinds of interactions with people, so I don't know, but I think it's still a thing. So they're doing that, and you want to say, you want to reply. You've got this urge to reply, and you're getting hooked into them. They're, oh, they've texted me, and you're getting all excited. But you know in your heart of hearts that is not the right move. You know that is not going to lead you down the path that you want to go down. And so what we do in a very practical way is we put down the phone and we go, okay, what's going on here? Okay, so I'm kind of bored. I'm kind of feeling like I need a little bit of validation, and this person's texted me and it's not honouring of me, and I know I don't want to move forward with this person because they're very flaky and they're not showing up for me, and I don't feel respected. And so I'm just actually going to leave that for now. And then you feel this sensation of, oh, but I want to reply. Okay, why do I want to reply? What's the reason? What outcome do I want to create? Well, I kind of like the excitement and the flirting. Okay, great. So if I do that, and if I choose to do that, what path will that lead me down? Well, probably, you know, sexting with this person. And honestly, I don't want to do that. It's just not something I want to do with this person. Okay, so I'm going to leave it. What would really nourish me right now? Well, doing a quick meditation, then going to bed. Right? That's just a really practical example of how to break those cycles when someone's coming back into your life that isn't really treating you the way that you want to be treated. And when we're doing that, we're actually developing new neural pathways in our brain. So you know how in Microsoft Excel, the spreadsheet program, there are formulas. If this cell does this cell does that, and it's the formula is called if this then that. So it's kind of like that in our brain. If this happens, then I do this. If the guy texts me or the girl, I text back. If he gets in touch, I get into this drama with him. You know, so we've got these associations that are built really tightly, and we start to break them by creating space. And the space is acting differently. So instead of phone lights up, let's text this person back, place the phone down, walk away, breathe, and ask yourself the question, do I want to respond to this? Is that really going to serve me? So that's when we create the space between the stimulus and the response, the behavior and the reaction. We create space, and from that space then we can replace it with something else, which is being treated better by people and changing your relationship reality, right? The spiritual steps needed to heal this. What would I say about the spiritual steps? If any of the stuff on karma felt really, felt like it tugged on something within you, felt like it was, felt like it really spoke to you, then it could be worth doing a past life regression. There are tons on YouTube. Maybe I'll post one of my favorite ones below by Brian Weiss. I think he's brilliant. He's kind of the grandfather of past life regressions. He's really, really great. And when you go into the regression, just have an intention, like I want to see what my relationship karma is, or I want to see the moment when I created the relationship karma, and just have that intention just create a very general intention or a very open question and go into the regression with that question or intention in mind. What I'd recommend is not to go down the path of show me who's the one, or is this person the one? Like, that's not really, you're not going to get a very clear answer, because it's not a question that's of the highest like truth and intention. You know, it's a very ego based question, and I don't like that whole phrase of like the ego, but it's not really coming from your soul, right? So just be aware of that. So I'll place that down below. What else was I going to do? I'm going to do the dating drama archetypes video. And I'm also going to do past life regression. So I'm going to put them in the comments below for you. But I think we've kind of covered everything. The reason why love feels hard, the soul meaning behind it, and then the practical, emotional, and spiritual steps needed to heal this. So if there's anything that I can help you with, whether you're on live or on the replay, just let me know down in the comments. And we'll be live again tomorrow at 4 p.m. so I can certainly answer extra questions there. What I would say is that if the comments come through like about a week after we've done this, or later on, still absolutely put your comments down. And what I might do is create some content around your questions. If it's something that comes up that I recognize a lot of people struggle with, then I might make some content around that. And of course, I'm always available to answer your questions in the courses and on the monthly Zoom calls that are included with the courses as well. Now I'm going to go through your comments. This is one of my favorite bits, when I get to hear what's really resonating with you. Meredith is saying it covers it perfectly. I love that movie. I think that was about Castaway, right? It's such a profound movie. That movie is actually about relationships. It's about his relationship to time, but also his relationship to other people, and how he discards his relationships, and then he realizes how important they are. And that's how Wilson comes about and that whole thing. And the ending of the movie is kind of controversial, but in my heart, I'm like, I think he goes to her. I think that's what happens. So it is about relationships. It's really special. Meredith, I never bought into Santa. It didn't seem real or plausible. You're definitely an old soul. You're definitely an old soul, because you're like, oh, this shit again. I've heard it before. Meredith, I love the dating archetype video. Yeah, it's really strong. And Kari's here, gives us a heart. Thank you. Thank you for your love. Okay. I think that's everything. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll be back at 4 p.m. It is just, I'm looking outside now. It looks like I'm like looking up to the sky. I am actually. I'm looking at the sky beyond my computer, the windows just in front of the screen. And it's going dark. We've had the most beautiful sunsets and sunrises here, because it's been freezing. It was -4 yesterday. I know in like Canadian and some American cities, that's really not that cold for winter. But for England, it felt really cold. It snowed yesterday. So we've been having the most beautiful sunset. So I'm going to go watch the sunset now, and I'll be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. And tomorrow, what we're talking about is the second piece of this. So today we've covered hot mess. So this might feel a bit heavier, a bit more difficult. And tomorrow's going to be a lot more fun. Well, I mean, hopefully today was fun too. But tomorrow we're going to be talking about how do you actually embody feminine energy? How do you become that person? And again, it's going to be practical as well. It's not all going to be like high level, intangible stuff. I want to give you real practical steps for you to become that person. Like, how do you become her? How do you become the highest version of yourself that attracts love easily? Who do you need to be? What do you need to do? How do you get there? All of that. So I'll be setting up that video soon. So keep a look on the page, and you can subscribe and ring the notification bell to be notified when I'm live tomorrow. I really hope this served you. Oh, and you can also hang out with me on social media if you want. I'm on Instagram and Twitter the most. My handles there are at Cheryl J. Muir. And if you do feel called to go deeper with this work, the details of my courses are in the description below. And the 21% off is good until January the 7th. So there's 2 introductory courses there where I go into this in so much more detail. You're really going to be able to hit the ground running, especially if you've really absorbed this information and like you've really got it, it's locked in. You're going to be able to go really deep with the course material really quickly. And the courses do include calls with me, because I don't want you just enrolling in a course and then it never sees the light of day. That's not helpful for you, and that doesn't feel good to me either. I want to make sure you're able to use it and have that accountability, which is why we have the monthly calls to help you on your journey and to help you go deeper with it. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so much. I honor you. This is not easy work, and it is, what day is it? Sunday. It's Sunday today, so you could be off doing something, you know, super chill. So I really honor you for showing up and doing this and being open. So thank you. I love you, and I will see you tomorrow.